Okay, first of all, why acting sustainably? Whenever we talk about sustainability, we very often talk about ecological aspects, environmental protection, and the like. However, what is often forgotten is that sustainable development is based on three different pillars, namely on the ecological pillar, the social one, and the economic one. In our current activities, we very much focus on economic targets still, although the social targets such as labor safety or the struggle against corruption, but also ecological targets such as climate protection and environmental protection are getting more and more in the focus. Still, the economic targets are the ones that are the core of our thinking and doing without taking into account any consequences, also any financial additional burdens that will come in the future. So we can just say that there is no functioning economy without a functioning society, and there is no healthy society without a healthy environment. In this graph, I try to show you the situation that we're in at the moment. You can see the deviations from the average temperatures of the last 100 years in Europe, year on year. The blue strips meaning that the average temperature was fall short of. The red one mean that we were beyond the average temperatures. And what is striking here is that since the 1990s, the average temperature is actually exceeded incrementally and more significantly. What does that mean for the future? If we don't do anything now, the climate catastrophes are going to increase in number, which at the end of the day will lead to severe ecological, social, and economic consequences. We had one sign of that in Ahrtal in Germany, where heavy rain led to flooding. It actually destroyed the life of many people living there and incurred costs in an amount of billions of euros. The question is where to start when we talk sustainability. Well, of course, we could start with respect to building and construction to look at the impact on the environment of the products. This can be done by the so-called EPDs. And this EPD, in turn, is always based on life cycle assessments, LCAs. When we have any such LCA, the target is to look at the environmental impacts throughout the entire life cycle of any product. So not only during the production itself, but starting from the production to the use of the product and the subsequent use or secondary use. And how do you proceed with such an LCA? Well, first of all, you have to provide for the framework condition, meaning that you determine which goals and which scopes the LCA has. In our case, it would be the EPD basis. Then which target groups should be addressed? Is it for architects? Is it for inhabitants? Then what are the products to be analyzed? And at the end of the day, how about the spatial and time limits of the system? Once you've defined all of those parameters, you start with the inventory analysis, meaning that you are collecting data throughout the entire life cycle in order to have an impact assessment with the right software and to quantify the impact on the environment. The thus determined impacts on environment are then analyzed and interpreted in order to show correlations as they appear. Here we have an exemplary overview of the data necessary for such a inventory analysis. For instance, how much energy do we need, how much fresh water is used during production, also which raw materials, which auxiliary substances, for instance, lubricants, cooling agents, and so forth. But we also look at the outputs, wastewater, for instance, or exhaust air, emissions, if you wish, for the soil, the air, and stuff like that. And this is an extract from the individual environmental impact categories according according to EN standard 15804 how to do an LCA for this environmental impact analysis. I think what is very important here is all of the climate change aspects. I think this is what is best established because it is also the basis for some individual targets defined by the policymakers. As CO2 emission is always a very abstract term, and you might say, okay, this product is emitting 1 ton of CO2. It is very difficult to visualize what that actually means. If we have temperature, an outdoor temperature, an average outdoor temperature, it would be this ball or sphere of 10 square meters. As already mentioned, the EPD is based on the EN 15804 standard that already provides some framework conditions when it comes to our target and scope analysis, among other things, also the system limitations. In the old version of the standard 15804, they only looked into the production phase as a system limitation. However, things will change as of October this year, namely, it will become mandatory to look into the post-use phase and also the potential for recycling the materials used, meaning that you need to specify additional information, and based thereon, perhaps you will also learn a bit more about your product. And what is the EPD good for? What is it used for? Well, of course, as some sort of information sheet or specification for private persons, but also for business entities. However, mainly for building certification systems that use this EPD for information about ecological aspects. Of course, there is a whole plethora of individual building certifications. The most important and best known ones LEED in the US, BREEAM in Great Britain, and the DGNB system in Germany that is based on the state GMB system. And then certification systems in Switzerland, for instance, the SGNI, or in Austria, the OGNI, they are again very strongly related to the GMB. And what is the purpose of all that? What is the purpose of having one's building certified? Well, here is just a couple of advantages. For instance, you can reach a higher value of your real estate, of your property. The life cycle costs can be drastically reduced, and you do something for the environment because you're saving resources and the environment, and it might also have a positive impact on the health of the people using a building. As this is the most relevant certification system, I tried to explain the DGNB certification system on this chart, at least roughly. So we have it subdivided into 6 different qualities: economical, social, cultural quality, technical quality, process quality, location quality, and the ecological quality. These 6 different qualities or quality aspects are then assessed based on criteria catalogs, and the EPD is looking into one criterion for the ecological quality, for instance, and then depending on what is being analyzed or what is being certified, be that interiors, quarters, or buildings, other criteria might be relevant for the certification. And how can the IFT support you when you would like to obtain any such certification? Well, there is the so-called IFT Sustainable Product Pass or card. This is some sort of label that are already available for specific products, and it is also based on the EPD, and you already assign a building or a project to different certification criteria. For instance, emissions into the interior air. Then we have product certificates, raw material certificates, FSC, GFA, hazardous substances according to REACH. Then also post-use cycles, management systems, or also produce a declaration such as a sustainability report. All of that can be used for your personal information in order to see what exactly is already available, but it could also be passed on to customers who are simply interested to see what the product is already capable of providing. And to wrap it up, perhaps one personal statement. Sometimes things are just, claimed for some out of some emotional reasons, but I would say that fact-based information should be a good basis for the right decisions. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to do that, or perhaps you can also visit me at the IFT booth in Hall 1. Thank you.